We got everything that we asked for. Marnus runs, Smith runs, Head 99, Lion wickets, and a Brathwaite 100. Australia start the summer in the perfect manner. What the fuck is going on there in Rawalpindi? Now, you should only be celebrating if you haven't scored 100 in that game. That doesn't really make sense, but you know what I mean. Crawley runs, Duckett runs, Pope runs, Brook runs, Babar runs, Marm runs, Shafiq runs, everyone runs. Bazball is breaking cricket and Joe Root is batting left-handed. India lose to Bangladesh. What's going on over there? The Australian women are about to head over to India as well for a 5-match T20 series. This episode is brought to you by Budgie Smuggler, as they all are. Pez, this summer is just all about alphas. And alphas are going to alpha. And is there a bigger Indian alpha than Sehwag?
Exactly. I love that lead in. He goes, once again, just capturing the true colour and dynamism and vibrancy of the thriving cricket world at the moment. And yet the number one thing that happened was just, again, a pretty simple post from Viru. Overnight. So if you missed it, ladies and gentlemen,
just a scorecard, very simple.
Just a scorecard.
Very simple, chalk.
Say your crease, mate. He popped up a scorecard on Twitter last night. May have done it to other platforms as well, but it was a scorecard, and I'll just sort of describe it to you if you haven't seen it. If you're watching on YouTube, maybe we'll pop that up. Sure. I don't know. Allianz Cup, first test, first innings. You can see at the bottom there's 28 extras. There's 76 overs. The India's batting, and they've compiled 404 for the loss of no wicket. You see names like Laxman, Tendulkar, Ganguly, Yuvraj and Dhoni, etc. And the copy that Sehwag puts out there is, forget the scorecard. One very interesting thing about this Indian 11. Can you point it out? So I mentioned everything there. Yeah. What I failed to mention is that the two guys batting have some runs against their name. You got Rahul Dravid, 128 not from 231 balls. You expect that from Rahul Dravid. Yeah. But the poster himself, Virender Sehwag, what's he up to? He has 248 not from 242 balls.
Red.
And yeah, he says, forget the scorecard.
Forget the scorecard.
Forget the scorecard that I've just posted up where I've made 248 red. What's the one interesting thing about this Indian team now? Obviously, the great cricketer helped amplify that.
That's right. Spread the message.
On behalf of Virender, because it's a wonderful trivia question that he's put out there.
It was just asking, can you point it out? What's interesting about this?
And a lot of people, as you'd expect, replied just straight-faced. Well, obviously, the most important thing about this is that every single person in this team has made 100.
Yeah.
And it's like every single person.
Isn't that interesting?
And so Viru actually, he has in good faith asked you to forget the scorecard.
Forget the scorecard.
If that's the case, why not just list the team?
Yeah, why not list the team sheet?
Why not just put the team sheet? I reckon there was a number of opportunities to capture simply the team from that game. Yeah. It just so happened that he captured the 248 red before telling you to forget the scorecard.
They were lucky. He was
it's
lucky.
It's a good genre, isn't it?
It's perfect.
It's building a bit, that genre. There's a few others knocking about. Just a really good classic of like, I'm pretending that I want you to focus on one thing when really it just so happens when that happens, the poster tends to have done well in that game. Yeah, you know?
There's a great. We talked to the guys from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast a little bit later on in the show, and obviously they famously had some really good players in the past, and reconciling that with the current situation. And, we've seen that in the same thing with Australia. They've also got some great players still in the media and stuff. India, also great players and that. They just get this opportunity to actually broadcast, interesting anomalies about this, interesting statistics like how all these guys had 100 who played in this game one time, Right. Now, if Bradman had, a bit of Twitter, a bit of TikTok, a bit of Insta, he could throw some stats up.
He had a bit of content to work with, didn't he?
He could congratulate guys like, Marnus getting his first 100 in each innings because when I did it for the first time, et cetera, Steve Waugh did that as well, after Steve Smith sing. In the Ashes, he was like, I remember when I did this. It's a great genre.
I wonder if Packer ever spoke to Bradman about going into commentary. Yeah. Bradman was in charge of the ACB, just essentially running the show.
He could have done whatever he wanted.
In his highly detailed manner. And warring with Ian Chappell and stuff like that. But I wonder if there was an opportunity for him just to jump into the box. Fuck, that'd be tough to play in those circumstances, wouldn't it?
I'd find it difficult if Bradman had to throw to an ad, though.
Or kind of like sell Tony Gregg's memorabilia.
Yeah, or just jump on some Bet365 or whatever the advertising broadcast might be for the day, Or if Bradman started talking about his fantasy team, for for the Big Bash.
Well, like the trope of commentary though is like you speak highly of yourself and then you sledge your mates for the little errors that they've made and stuff like that. Now, Braden, you could go through all sorts of montages with him and go, oh, you batted well this day. Oh, here's your 270. Coming in at 7 and stuff like that. But like you'd still have like Chuck Fleetwood Smith next to him and whatever, going like, how about that one from Hollies, mate? You picked that one, Don?
Just that kind of light-hearted banter. Also, it'd be nice to know what kind of pizza he likes, just generally speaking. Hey, last week we were talking about teas, Pez, and Liam wrote in on Patreon and said, hey, lads, just listen to this week's pod, and then confirmed the date, and confirmed that this year's tea is actually BYO for lower grades. Yuck. For me, being the skipper of our fives, Grim, I find this especially annoying because as the average age in fifth grade is now around 16, the tea is usually superb. Anyway, use this how you will, but yeah, essentially no tea in lower grades now.
I want to learn more. This is a scourge. This is a.
So when he says tea is BYO, I mean it's always been BYO, but it's been for the smorgasbord. It's never. So he's saying like it's just individual. That's what he's suggesting, right? You just do it for yourself. Like, you eat whatever you want for tea. It's not the idea of community. I mean, other sledge opposition teas.
I wonder why. I really wonder. I want to know more about this.
It's not a COVID thing, is it? Can't be.
Surely not, for getting everybody together. I mean, we already went through the fact that ball's a vector of disease.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's more on that later. Hey, a shout out to all the people who came to our show in Perth on, tell me what day of the week that was, mate.
Thursday?
One of those. Absolute belter. We had a great time. Great to have Ashton Turner on stage. I've done it again.
I know we both did it. Half the questions are about him being Ashton Agar.
Great to have Ash Turner on stage, and a special guest also joined us. He was just in the crowd, just coincidentally. We had Marcus Stoinis there join us on stage, so that was absolutely fantastic. And thank you to everyone who enjoyed the show and came along to the show and said nice things and shook hands afterwards. Now we've got
complete sellout, and thanks to everyone also who wasn't sure whether or not to laugh at the JL gear.
Still not really sure how they felt there. It's very much a home game for that one there. So we got Cal Ferguson joining us on stage on Saturday in Adelaide. Tickets are still available at gradecricketer.com, as is all of our merch, including the Adam Zampa collab, the Get Rarer merch collab, the lids there with Zamps. Gradecricketer.com for your live show tickets. Tickets still available for Adelaide this Saturday and Brisbane the following Sunday. I want you there. I need you there.
Well, I should say, you can't say this. Higos was on fucking fire in Perth. It was a special show for Higos. If he's bringing that to the other live shows, then you want to be there. Oh, God. No, I was enjoying it as a crowd on stage.
And I said one thing, which was the worst thing I've ever said.
Yeah, but you got to shoot, Kevin Durant shoots.
Got to shoot.
You got to shoot.
Well, the worst thing is I got to laugh for it. So I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to reconcile with that next time. But let's just hope
that one laugh for it.
Yeah, that's right. But let's hope that never comes up again. Anyway,
but that's that sort of thing is going to happen if people want a sense of the live shows.
Yeah,
it gets very much into like grade cricketer territory, as in pretend just being a grade cricketer on stage. And it's not at the end of the show when people have had a couple of lagers, to say the least, or to put it mildly, a couple of questions come forth, and somebody asked, he goes, about the time he spoke about hooking up with a deaf bird, and it just kind of went from there. Now, we don't have to answer where
that doesn't need to come up every show.
I'm just saying, if you want a flavour of where it gets towards the end.
A little flavour.
Yeah, and I don't want more questions about that. Obviously, that's now going to happen at every live show. Now that I've said that, you can keep rehearsing your response and proving it, because you got to try some stuff.
Well, that's
on
why
stage.
Comedians go out on the road and they sort of groove the material, just see what works in different cities, different places, the inflection on certain parts of the joke, how much we're going to hit that punchline,
I'd like you to do that joke in front of some of our guests as well. They're next to JL. Anyway, so Adelaide will be good. Last time we did Adelaide, it has to be a matinee because of the night games, but people are in there going pretty hard pretty early. So we want to see you there in the same spirit, Adelaide.
They're fucking great fun. Looking forward to seeing those people. They've already got tickets, but if you want to come along and you're on the fence or you're playing cricket or you think you are, fuck that off. Gradecricketer.com. Come along to Adelaide and Brisbane. All right. Australia and the West Indies. Obviously, you can get all of our dailies at the end of each day's play on YouTube, or if you just listen to TGC instead of watch our shit, you can get it at patreon.com/Great Cricketer, as well as hashtag AskTGC Fridays, where we talked about skinning people and then wearing them as suits last week. Okay, just hit some top line points here, Pez. Marnus is player of the match. He hit a double ton. He also hit a century in the second innings. There was some Smith runs. They just couldn't get him out. West Indies only took 6 wickets for the game. Travis Head somehow failed to hit 99 miraculously. That was sort of the highlight of the game in many ways. But, Marnus, 8 test centuries now. I think all of them have been at home. I can't think of an away 100 for Marnus. I'm sure people already know the statistic if that is the case. But it's good. It's good in Perth. It's good in Australia. It just really makes Australia a very, very tough team to beat at home, except when we play India when we've lost them twice.
Yeah, that's right.
Of the last 2 series.
We had a wish list before the game, and it was essentially fulfilled by this very good Australian cricket team. Now things are getting existential when it comes to the topic du jour of cricket. Like,
and I want to talk about that, but I want to talk about the game first. Yeah.
So rolling it on, like, to me, like sometimes cricket's just on, and sometimes one team's better than the other team, and it's just a game of cricket between consenting adults, and and that's what happens. That's what happened in this game. It largely went according to script. A couple of things here and there, like I welcomed it. To be honest, I welcomed the understandable rhythm, the familiarity of it. I welcome the Australian team being good. Just as an adult, I don't have to turn on my TV and be exposed to like the latest blockbuster in entertainment that grips me at the edge of my seat at all costs and all times. It's just a game of test cricket that was on where our team was good, and they're doing pretty good. Guys getting miles to, Thommo 200 wickets, Marnus 300 runs for the game. Steve Smith undefeated on 220 runs exactly, which is good for him in his sleep. Nathan Lyon bowls us the victory with a 6-for in the 4th innings. Which is something he started to do a little bit more. There's just, Head 99, breezy, gives us something to talk about. Steve Smith's catching the ball. It's just good things happening. And it's okay.
Great.
Like,
it's just great.
Australia's got 15 tests this year, and like they seem to get progressively harder as you go through, and they've just started well, and that's nice. There's going to be some bumps ahead. Yeah, that was good. I thought the Windies put up a good fight as well, which is what we need. Like, exactly. I welcomed the ceasefire between generations of Australian players ahead of this game. That they actually linked arm to patronise the opposition, which was good. They can all link arms and go like, okay, the slip stagger's wrong. Windies are bowling the wrong length. A couple of them are plucky. What grade would they play here? Right. It was just 3, 4, 5 days of like I understand this. Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to get a pulse on the nation, or just a feeling of like if cricket started and summer started for us, because for me it really did start. Sure there was a global tournament beforehand, and indeed one happening at the same time over there in Qatar. I was thinking Bahrain. So that's not right. That's not right at all. But I've just had a wonderful weekend. Like obviously the Perth trip aside, we're obviously lucky enough to go there for a day. Be at the ground for a day, which is already a memory. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. But just for me, and look, it's buttressed by the weather here in Melbourne, which was nice for the weekend. Obviously now it's 15 degrees and raining here, and wearing jumpers again and all that. But like, it's just been on for me this weekend. I haven't watched every ball. I haven't felt like I needed to watch every ball. I had a nap yesterday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. Missed the end. It doesn't really matter. I was walking in the rooms, as I was saying during the dailies, and I was just looking at scores, and I just recognised the names and the numbers. It made me feel very good. I really enjoyed Brathwaite's 100 as well. Yep. Which also, to your point, it just you need one player to do something good, which is like, see, they were trying.
Nice spell from Alzari Joseph at one point. Yes, that's through the chest. That's nice.
I think Seals looks fantastic, especially in the first innings. Really good, really lively. All these things said in a slightly condescending manner, which is like, but against our boys, just a little bit of class above, a little bit of class above. Now, Brathwaite scored of the last 1,100 scored by a West Indies player. Brathwaite's got all of them. As an opener. So and also captain is fantastic. It's really good. So, that aside, blah, blah, blah.
Well, Australia's obviously failed to target the captain there.
They didn't target the captain.
Why didn't they target him?
They used to do that. Yeah. They used to target the captain. Now, what did that mean? They used to try and get him out.
There's a target on him. I mean, something different in the US.
Well, I think Pidgeot did used to do a bit of target practice.
He was. You're right. He used to target the captains. And
little did they know.
Come to think of it, that was
actually a threat.
That's right. That should have been investigated. targeting those elephants.
Anyway, so my point being that I just had a great weekend. It was a great weekend, and the cricket was on, and 42,000 people there, etc. But that's all good. Lions 6 for it at the end there. Now, obviously, they didn't have Cummins to bowl in the fourth innings. He was on the field, but when he was like chasing the ball and it was ginger, it was like,
and then at the end, and then he sort of went to stop the boundary when he just was running alongside it and stuff. Yeah.
It was uncomfortable for him, but apparently he's going to be okay for Adelaide. But Lions 6 for an important role. They gave him 5 sessions to bowl the West Indies out, and they used all of them. But Lyon takes 6 for 120 something. He went past Ashwin now again, so now he's 8th in the all-time list. But it's just so
he's better than Ashwin now.
So now he's better than Ashwin now, and it's just fucking heaps of wickets. But to your point, to the points, all bowlers now over 200 wickets. All 4 of them over 200 Test match wickets. That's unbelievably rare. I'm sure there's stats going around if that's ever happened before, but there wouldn't be too many times. It's never happened before.
All played at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. Fuck. That's amazing. It's amazing, but it also makes me ask, like, how come we haven't been the best in the world for ages? Because it's like, well, I mean, we were talking about this this morning. So Steve Smith is he's one of the 15 players that's been the best since Bradman. Marnus, 8 Test centuries, wonderful at home. Dave Warner is an all-time great. How many Test hundreds has Warner got? It's more than 20. And then you've got guys around that who are also pretty good. But it's just, I've been saying this for a while. It just feels like always been like an almost team.
Well, now's the time. I mean, this is really this is the time to put the cherry on top of all of that stuff. If they can somehow succeed over in India and England, then they do manage, I think, to kind of justify the potential, which is really shows how high the standards are. Really, you can never really win in Australian cricket. I mean, these are guys who've all played 100 tests and have amassed unbelievable records. It's like they're a bit unders at the moment for their achievements.
Yes, England for me is the winnable one, I suppose. There's more lineage of Australian players playing in England. We understand the conditions a little bit better. I think India's so far, like obviously Steve Orr's team was the final frontier team. I mean, they didn't win it. Then under Ponting / Gilchrist was actually the captain when Australia did win there. You look at like what those wickets were like when Australia actually won there. They made fucking green seamers. Like you're just never going to see that again in India. So like that actually like sort of strengthened Australia's chances in that series, But so I think India's like absolutely no danger of us winning a series there. But England's the one for me. Like you got to win in the away Ashes. Win the away Ashes.
It's a World Test Championship final as well.
That's obvious. Yeah, that's obvious. But given that New Zealand won the first one, it's like, well, does this thing even mean anything? I want them to win the away Ashes. That's what I want, and then I'll say, okay, this is top tier Test nation.
It doesn't mean we didn't have the opportunity to complain throughout this game. I mean,
I'm already complaining.
Marnus 300, got lucky. Smith 220 unbeaten on as many as Marnus. Also hip issues. Travis Head was breezy. Not a century though. Nathan Lyon 6 for, wrong line. Bowled the wrong line.
Yeah.
Once again,
little wide.
The old Nathan Lyon bowling the wrong line gear. Yeah. Still ends up with 6. Just got a feeling he has half a clue about what he's doing.
Yeah. Sort of knows where he's trying to put it.
Yeah. No, just get it outside the eye line, just on off stump, just spin it back in, hitting the top of off. Oh, okay. Easy for some. And I also noted that in the papers this morning, this is Crash Craddock, a storied journalist in Australia, in Australian cricket and sport, but the win still wasn't good enough. Craddock's article started with, Australia's attack was near perfect, but the headline read, only thing missing in great Australian attack, and that was wheels.
Okay.
We want more wheels.
Okay.
So then the selectors have delivered that now.
Yes.
Do you want to get into that? Yeah. So news hot off the press as we go to where that Australia has selected as backup to Cummins, and I suspect some other quicks as well, both Michael NESER, but more importantly now, because he's an old toy, Lance Morris, the wild thing. Don't even know if he's called that, but he bowls 150 clicks plus WA, leading wicket taker in Shield this year. I've had a look at it. It's fucking wheels. Okay. He's got sunken mad eyes and his hair's like Dita Brummer and his pomp, with respect to DB there.
Now, is that going to cause a bigger issue because, we know that people aren't turning up because they don't know who's in the team? So is that going to cause more issues, mate?
No, I don't. I think that analysis is wrong. We'll go into the analysis of why cricket's wrong again, why it's going wrong. But no, this is what they needed. You know, like no one's willing to say this because we say this every game. We've got the best bowling attack in the world. Blah blah blah. No one's ever been better, etc. But it is that old adage that I'm saying is an information exchange. You have a hot woman, but someone will say, you know, someone's tired of fucking her.
Yeah.
Someone else will say that. I don't say that.
No. You just heard that from one of your friends.
I just heard that, and I think the nation feels the same way about our bowlers.
Yes. I just recognise the names too much, though I don't know who's playing, but I recognise all the team.
Hazelwood's Amble, Stark coming in, swinging it. I appreciate it, but I've seen it before. I've been married to this for a long time. Yeah. You know, and
you can't keep going back to the same video. You need something new to find the perfect video.
That's exactly right. Like Steve Orr's team knew this. They had McGrath, Gillespie, Casper. They had a Angie Bickle, a cadre of support quicks.
Yes.
But they took one look at Brett Lee and said, "Look at that blonde thing. Let's get that in. We're fucking winning." You know what I mean? And I see similar rhythms with Lance Morris. He's not a young tearaway.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a young tearaway, but he's a tearaway nonetheless.
Give me a tearaway.
Yeah, and I think more people. I'll tune in now. So what's that toy?
Yes.
You know? Okay. So
because it needs to be raw though. Because do you remember how
it needs to be raw?
You know, we've seen in the past where guys have performed very ably and, you know, a top tier in Sheffield Shield, and you think these guys have got to get a game.
Yeah.
And then they bowl about 2 or 3 deliveries. And go, no.
Exactly.
I've seen enough.
Your NESER. This is extremely unfair. I mean, NESER. Jai Richardson. There's a bit about him as well. He took fifer in Adelaide last year against England. You know.
Yeah.
But he didn't play at the MCG and take 6 for like bowling.
You know, when I first saw Boland bowl his first spell, we learned afterwards that he was incredibly nervous. But I saw that first spell and I was like, nah. No, he goes and does what he does on you know, the following day. Yeah. And look, one of the all-time great memories of Boxing Day Test matches. But I had a look at it first and I thought, not for me.
Exactly.
That's not for me.
Now, Boland will come in for Cummins.
Yes. I think Cummins will play.
I don't think he will.
Cummins has said that he'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that means. He might have just been... might have been talking existentially.
Well, I think that if you have a backup paceman in Boland and then you fly in 2 extra replacements and there's no other...
There'll be some rotation.
Well, I've got a feeling they might do even more than 2. You know, or more,
and Warner's
more than
a captain.
One. That's
interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. And you know, and we all know that the next game or next series is more important than the current one.
So Australia's already won this series now by doing what they've done in this first game, despite it being a 2-match series. But it is 5 test matches in 5 weeks, given the South Africa series starts immediately afterwards in Brisbane, and then Boxing Day, and then the New Year's test, of course. So a couple of rotations needed, given how much cricket these guys play. Except they haven't played any cricket, I only started watching now, so that actually doesn't really make any sense.
That's right. What do they do for the rest of the year?
Lots of conversation. Lots of conversation about only 42,000 people turning up to Perth to Optus Stadium there over the 5 days. It turns out that's actually the exact average, or nearly the exact average, for West Indies series or West Indies test matches played in that city. So why is no one there? Is it because they're off the team? They're not winning hard enough. Did Australia win hard enough in this game?
Well, no, and also Cummins took the knee. So, and if you
I forgot they took the knee. Yeah, that was a big turn off.
If you put those 2 things together,
I'll never watch this team again.
That's right. I shout into the fucking comment section.
Yeah, all in caps.
I don't know, man. That's what everyone wants to talk about. Like, I think our summer used to be very understandable, a very defined circadian rhythm. You know, footy, cricket. Long, and then, you know, 2 forms, long form and short form.
Into the Benson and Hedges series.
Exactly. Sponsored by cigarettes. That was what it was.
Luckily, they sorted out the ethical issues of advertising these days.
But we are like species, you know, like we have been conditioned to that rhythm, circadian rhythm. Mm-hmm. Heaps of forces have changed it. The internet, fragmented entertainment, underinvestment in test cricket, investment in domestic franchise cricket, paywalling the white ball side, Cummins taking the knee. These are all things that have actually taken, have disrupted our rhythm, our sleep cycles for cricket. I think the Australian public care about cricket, but I just think they're getting fucking smashed with more content from all angles than ever before. I think the business of sport has warped our experience of what we are used to seeing in the summer. Like,
absolutely.
Look at look at News Corp and the AFL with the Socceroos the other day. Like, if you want any example of how, like, the business of sport disrupts just what's actually happening, then look at that. So, if people who didn't catch that, the front page of the Herald Sun yesterday, after Australia, the Socceroos reached the highest of heights as we ever have in football, and thus, you'd have to say, one of the greatest things we've ever attained on a global sporting stage. The front page was the round 1 fixture dropping for the AFL, which is a combination of the AFL and News Corp hand in hand. One is protecting the interests of its sport. The other one is a media company that doesn't own the rights to football, but owns the rights to footy, to the Aussie rules, saying this is what we're going to talk about today. I just think, like the fact that you can have a Socceroos team be seen by a supposed paper of record as a threat to profits the day they nearly fucking go toe to toe with Argentina, should explain to people how, like, the economic drives of sport and the public's relationship to the game are really out of sync. And I think the same is happening with cricket. We expect cricket to be on in the summer, but there's all this other business shit going on around it that is, like, making it a very strange existence. So as you say, like, it's the same amount of people who turn up to Perth as always turn up to an Australia Windies game. But for some reason, the public feel, and they're right, feels like there's something off about cricket at the moment. It's not. There's weird shit happening. And it needs strong leadership to actually bring the public along with the journey of what's actually happening with cricket.
There is that experience of there is something in the mind about something is happening with cricket, but they're being like the conversation seems to be steered in these really weird directions, which are like it's this one thing. Like we're all just seeking these like clear binary answers of why the thing is happening. Like, do we not like the players? Is it the woke stuff? Is like how come no one's turning up? Is it because
and it has to be one?
Is it because it's winter? It's not cricket season yet. And like what happens in this test match is just what happens in a test match. Cricket, but we're conditioned in this thing was like, no, I get this like 30 seconds thirst trap on TikTok and that's how I enjoy entertainment now. Whereas test cricket is a thing of like what I've experienced this weekend. Like you just walk in and out of rooms and it's on. It's a never-ending symphony that you just come in and out of a different part. You don't need to be glued to it. That's just how cricket's always been. There's the same amount of people turn up to this game as there's always been, but it's like, no, there's something not right.
Yeah.
And there is something not right. It is changing. And I think Australia is just catching up to that. There's all these, there's lots of conversations from different media outlets and different journalists trying to figure out what this is. And then I suppose it's also heightened because of our T20 World Cup being in October, which is a very unusual time for cricket to be on, and this global event. And look how many Indian people turned up to the MCG to watch Zimbabwe.
Wasn't a problem for them.
And look at all these like pop up franchise tournaments happening as well. What's happening in Test cricket? How come the West Indies is shit? Well, the West Indies is shit because the big three have like hoarded all the money for years. At the same time that T20 cricket is just taking over because of the commercialism and capitalism of cricket generally, being like, well, there's no money in Test cricket. It's interesting, and it's all sort of maybe it's a confluence of factors.
It has to be one thing. I still think it's the knee.
It's the Alinta Energy stuff. I actually defend gas companies. That's sort of my gambit. That's sort of what I'm about.
Well, they've gone woke and they've gone broke. Once again, I've just got a feeling Cummins' cash position is not broke.
If I had to have a guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is interesting if nothing else. Anyway, the team rolls on to Adelaide now, so it's a 3-day turnaround between test matches, and they've got to travel across half the country.
But I do think I'll need Lance Morris in now, and because there's whispers about him. Okay. There's been whispers about him.
Has he been taking polls in the Shield? I don't know anything about him.
He's the leading wicket taker in the Shield.
Sorry, you said that. He's leading wicket taker.
27 polls.
Okay.
But more important than the polls
it's
the oral tradition. It's the whispers.
Right.
There's been whispers about him for a couple of years, and if you have a look at it on YouTube, it is wheels and it looks like wheels. The action feels a bit raw as well. So just get that in.
Does it look like he could hurt himself? Is it that kind of raw action? You remember early Cummins was like snapping into the crease. Tate looked like he was going to hurt himself.
Yeah, is it stressies?
Yeah. That's what I want.
It looks like he could get himself a couple
wild
stressies.
bareback shit.
I'm so sick of my perfect wife,
Give me the girl with the dragon tattoo. Give me that shit.
You could go harder than that, but yeah. Yeah. So, get us Lance Morris. Let's have a look at a new toy. Get us Boland and Morris and maybe Starkey and Lyon and the bin lid can wheel away.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because Stark's record with the pink ball is fucking sensational. So I want that for him. As well. He'll also be encroaching 300 test wickets. He's on 290 something at the moment, so he's heading towards that milestone there. For the West Indies, they got some issues as well. They got Roach, Mayers, and Bonner, all with some injury cloud or concussion cloud, if I can call it that. But you know what? We thought we should speak to some experts, just as this right here is two experts talking. So we spoke to the guys from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. It's a great podcast, and we spoke to the boys. So we'll get to them in a moment's time. But before then, Pez, Budgie Smuggler has supported TGC for years and years and years. And now, well, not now, they've always been supporting the public as well. But, summer's here, so it feels like, it's all part of it.
The best thing about Budgie Smuggler in the kind of theme of what we've just been talking about, we have a perfect wife, but we want something wild from time to time.
Right.
Budgie Smuggler's been the perfect wife vis-a-vis our sponsorship apparatus. But
now we want something else.
But now we want something wild, and they can provide that too.
Okay,
so they've got a new drop. This is the Lance Morris collection. No, they've got new underwear, new party shirts, golf shirts. There's a bit of golf gear now with Budgie Smuggler.
Yeah.
Christmas jumpers, stubbies, bucket hats. 3 new styles for women, and we had 3 women at our live show. So. That was good. And about 1 trillion spicy new smuggling designs. So everything's new. They've gone through. They deliver so much value to you all the time. They gave you there was the Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing, 20% off deluxe. They have $100 plus orders.
See you later.
And a couple of vouchers there. But now you've got some new designs to get around, and it in turn will get around you. You can get 20% off using the code CHAMP, maybe, at budgiesmuggler.com. I reckon go to the website and you'll see that there's other codes there where you can get some deals. So it's codes deluxe, it's values deluxe, values deluxe, knowing Linny. At budgiesmuggler.com.
All right, this chat with the Caribbean Cricket Podcast is, I suppose it's brought to you by T20 Stars. So just flicking through T20 Stars' website, Pez, as is my want. As you know, top headline, fast, free shipping and returns. I was just also seeing here that T20 Stars is a great range here, but it's as featured on Daily Telegraph, Herald Sun, news.com.au, but also the first one there, The Grey Cricketer.
Is that at the top?
That's at the top. That's number one. That's first name on the team sheet. TGC.
Hey, look, T20 Stars knows. Watto knows. He's a wise man, Watto.
I was reading a quote here from his website. Ready to be every bowler's worst nightmare? The T20 Stars bat shape is based on the very bat I used between 2016 and 2020. Expect a bat that picks up beautifully with a very generous sweet spot for incredible performance. I guarantee it. And you know what, Pez? He can guarantee it, Shane Watson, because as we said, his mitts are all over it.
Well, Watto's got a few levels in this regard, because the thing I love about Watto post-career is that, if you listen to our show and get him basically on any media that he trusts, he's just a lovely, wonderful person full of wisdom. He's very genial. He's very other person focused. At the backstage
of the Perth show, I was talking to Stoinis, and he was fucking raving about what
players rave about him.
He said that
except Pup.
He's
not that we've spoken to him, just guessing.
haven't heard anyone say anything. He's sort of been erased. Stoinis was saying he was fucking great when he came into the side, and I can believe that.
Yeah,
because he's been great to us.
Yeah, that's nice.
And now we're being great to the fans.
But he has levels. Like when we talked to Faf the other day,
right?
And he was Faf turned around and Watto's given it to him. He was like, what?
Yeah.
And if you read Watto's book as well that he's just put out, he's actually going through his psychological profile. I think when he's playing grade cricket, he used to take notes. And one of Watto's things on field was I can't remember the exact words, and I probably should get it right, but it was about he talking a lot and chipping a lot. He's got a level. So when he says, what's that line there? Be every bowler's worst nightmare.
Worst nightmare.
That is how Watto would go on the field. Be your worst fucking nightmare championship, and a wonderful person off the field.
And entrepreneur.
Exactly. So you can get all of that value at T20stars.com.
Here they are. Here are the boys.
Couple of weeks ago, some words started coming through the internet around a potential crossover between the Grade Cricket and the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Now, these are a couple of boys that we've admired from afar for a little while, but finally we've got them on, and I've already pre-warned them that they're going to get ignorant questions from a Big Three nation that they've probably explained before and is extremely annoying for them. But without further ado, a huge introduction to Mashel Santoki from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Boys, welcome to the Grade Cricketer.
Pleasure, guys. Pleasure to be on. Looking looking forward to the kind of crud you're going to throw at us, and we hope we can keep pace with you.
You'll be fine. Interesting. Okay, so you took the first answer there, Michelle. Okay, so I'm getting the dynamic. No, it's funny. We've never interviewed two people before as well, but you boys were a lockdown podcast, weren't you? That's where it got started. And just listening to a couple of interviews you guys have done before, I note that you say you were keen to tell like the tale of modern West Indies cricket. Now, given all we want to know about is ancient West Indies cricket, why did you want to immediately do something that wouldn't succeed?
Well, yeah, so basically just to sort of answer your question, we were just sort of sick of, the whole era of people referring to the Clive Lloyd, Viv Richards era and sort of acting as if West Indies cricket sort of ended at that point. So me and Michelle essentially said, you know what, there's interesting stories that have happened in the last 20 years in West Indies cricket. Why don't we tell them? And it turns out we were probably the only people telling them, because the podcast has sort of taken off during lockdown, as you said. And we feel like we've given a platform and a spotlight to sort of the current generation of West Indian players who have sort of been burdened with this kind of comparison to the golden generation of the 70s and 80s. And we use the podcast to sort of tell their story.
Oh, I mean, you had so many great players, though, didn't you? Like back in the day.
Whispering Death. Chief Viv was good, wasn't he?
What about Brian Lara's 100 the SCG that time? Oh, let's talk about that again. Let's talk about the current game that's just happened at the Perth game, and then I was into the Adelaide Test. I mean, like from an Australian perspective, like it just ticked every box we ever wanted. Marnus double 100, Smith couldn't get out. Nathan Lyon wickets. But from the West Indian perspective, like how did you guys reflect on the first game?
I think, to be fair, most the kind of rational West Indians you speak to, of which there aren't many anymore, but of the rational West Indians you speak to will say, you know what? That was actually a solid performance. And I say that almost thinking it sounds pitiful, because I'm well aware that as Australians, you're like, well, that was pretty rubbish. But from our perspective, that was battling, and nobody would have expected the Test match to go to 5 days. And I know some people say, well, that's because Australia batted for a long time and scored mammoth totals, but fundamentally, such is the disparity now between the two sides that you would have thought before the Test series that both matches would end inside 3 days. I think we might get that. You might get that wish in Adelaide, but it was impressive to see us actually show some level of fight and not let Australia have it all their own way.
We're going to get into like annoying stereotypes and tropes a little bit later, but like, I am. I was going to speak on the royal we.
Oh, okay, right.
Cricket exists, but like,
I didn't bring any stereotype questions.
It'll be really easy to cast the West Indies performance and their general presence here in Australia playing Test cricket as like this. I guess something that is always going to disappoint because it's not what it used to be. But the truth is that West Indies are playing some pretty decent Test cricket, relative to the recent past and also relative to England here last year. You guys gave us a game much better than the other blokes did last year. Can you just run us through where West Indies Test cricket is at? More in terms of performance. I don't want to get into like structural stuff yet, but in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, it's been ironic considering we're a cricketing nation who, has sort of been stereotyped as giving up Test cricket for the riches of T20 cricket. At the moment, the longest format is our strongest format. Under Phil Simmons, we've been formidable, particularly at home. And we've sort of built like a core of players coming through, Carl Mayers and Nkrumah Bonner, Joshua De Silva, and recently Tagenarine Chandapur in this Australia series, who have shown potential star performances. And as we saw earlier this year in the series against England, and then we won 2-0 against Bangladesh, we have been tough to beat in Test cricket. So, I mean, to put it into perspective, in terms of our expectations, me and Michelle had been petitioning the ICC that if West Indies did take this Test into day 3, we should just automatically get the World Test Championship points just for taking it that far. So the fact we've managed to make it to day 5 has exceeded any expectations we could have possibly had headed into this series.
One of the great parts of Australian myopia is that we get to see players do it on our shores. Now, Craig Brathwaite is just hit his 11th Test 100. He had a fantastic game, 60 in the first innings, 110, I think it was, in the second innings, 11 Test 100s, captain of the side, long-term performer. But it's the first time that we've seen him do it here. So that means he's a brand new player. But he's been, can you guys talk about his sort of journey? And he's actually been a remarkable player for a number of years now, hasn't he?
Yeah, most definitely. And the weirdest thing is Craig's only 30. And it shows how long he's been in the game. He made his Test debut at 19. And I always joke and say that Craig probably, it's not even probably, he is our best batter. But one of the reasons I believe he's our best batter is he's the only player in that squad to have played with the last set of quote unquote good players we had. So Craig would have debuted when Chris Gale was still playing, Shiv Chanderpaul was still playing, Darren Bravo, when he was good, was still playing. So Craig kind of started at a time when it was still possible to learn from players who had been there and done that. Now the current generation who come into the side essentially have to look at Craig Brathwaite as the one player who has been there and done that and got Test centuries all around the world, etc. So if anything, his career arc now has him as the senior statesman who the rest of the players have to learn from in order to understand how to crack Test cricket, so to speak. So it's actually perfect that he is now the captain because he is the best batter in the side.
11 Test hundreds all around the world in different conditions. A lot of our commentators, though, will be saying that because it was against Australia in Australia, it must be his best Test century ever. Yep. You guys would have to agree with that, wouldn't you?
Of course I have to agree with that.
I was hoping you wouldn't, because when the commentators said, I think what they mean to say is it's the only one they've seen. I was going to say, like, there's this issue in Australian cricket at the moment where, although our team is going quite well relatively, they're always in the shadow, of the golden generation. And the golden generation often casts an outsized shadow over the conversation in Australian cricket. Nothing the guys do at the moment is ever enough. The way they go about it, the way they talk, their social or political values, it's always under scrutiny against the backdrop of the greatest team ever. Now, just wanting to ask out of my own ignorance, like, does the golden generation or the greats of West Indian cricket cast a similar shadow over the modern players in West Indian cricket, or do they tend to give them space and let them do their own thing?
I think Sir Andy Roberts is a key voice. And after any series, you'll hear Andy Roberts come out bemoaning the batting, the bowling. Viv Richards as well will have his 2 pence to say. And I guess it's a tough one for the current players because they can never live up to those expectations. I mean, if we look at Shai Hope, when he hit those twin centuries at Headingley, the first thing that came into mind was, can he revive the golden generation of West Indian cricket again? Which is a heavy burden to place on someone after one good performance.
One good knock. Yeah.
And it's kind of been reflected in the fact he never scored a Test century again after that. So that sort of encapsulates just how much of a burden it is for the current players. But Mash, I'm sure you've got a lot to say, but there is certainly, you do get players from that generation who are quick to jump in after a poor West Indies performance.
I will just add that I wish some of them would shut up and never speak again. I'm about to get your platform cancelled with that statement.
It's nice that both podcasts and countries can unite over those things. It's been a great journey for Australia to learn some of the names of this current team, but we're actually going to learn even more names because Kemar Roach seems to be out. I think Kai Mayers is out as well. I guess Bonner will have to pass a concussion test, but I believe that the West Indies are flying out a potential debutant for the Adelaide Test.
Yeah, so Marquino Mindley, a pacer from Jamaica, has been flown out. I don't think he'll debut in Adelaide, but there's every chance that Anderson Phillip, who is already in Australia, will likely, he debuted already against Bangladesh, but it's likely that he will have to play against Australia, which will, I don't want to say weaken the side, but I think one of the kind of things that has hamstrung us versus Australia is that there are so many players in the current squad who've never been to Australia. And I think Santoki and myself have been speaking about the fact that Australia is one of the hardest places to travel, or tour, I should say, much less when you're playing a team where every one of their bowling attack is seen as one of the best current bowlers in modern cricket. And then we're throwing in a team where 7 of the players have never been to Australia before. So why don't we add another one and see what that does to the mix?
Boys, what is the most annoying stereotype or trope when it comes to West Indies cricket that you hear from, ignorant Big Three nation guys? And why is everyone in West Indies playing basketball and soccer?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. The comparison that everyone sort of abandoned West Indies cricket to go and support the LA Lakers or try and play for the LA Lakers is one massive misconception. I think the term calypso cricket as well is a thing that kind of gets thrown around for anything. Whenever you see a West Indian lose the wicket or hit a flamboyant shot, calypso cricket, and it's a generic term. It doesn't really have any sort of meaning, but those are sort of the main 2 things on my point. And just this idea of West Indian players being mercenaries as well. I think from a Big Three nation, it's easy to cast West Indian players as mercenaries who go after the money. But the simple fact is West Indian players have never traditionally made money from playing for West Indies, and they've always had to find other outlets. So this idea that, West Indian players don't care about the maroon, go after money, or mercenaries has been something which has sort of been cast for the past 20 years on the players.
Can I just following up to that, like when the West Indies come out here, we just get so many montages of players of old and stuff like that, but it's always set to like a backdrop of an island and steel drums. When like Ian Bishop or Michael Holding is fronting another promotional campaign, are they just a part of them just dying inside about just having to kind of just keep that trope up, or would they embrace it? Just sort of occupy their mind right now.
I have to assume that it's just a necessary evil to embrace it, because it also feeds into the misconception. I think you said at the top of the show, but it feeds into the misconception as well that we're all from the same place. So Santoki is Guyanese and I'm Jamaican. And we both support the West Indies, but actually culturally, there's quite significant differences between somebody from the 2 islands. So I always find it fascinating when the steel drums are used, because in all the years that I've lived in Jamaica or been to Jamaica, I don't know how many times I've actually seen steel drums. So it's just interesting, the kind of imagery that is used to kind of unify the kind of global sense of what the region is. But then almost that's the issue. There is no one way to unify the region. The West Indies is the only thing that kind of unifies the different islands and countries.
And just on that, I mean, that moves into a more serious point. You guys have discussed this kind of thing before. You wanted to record an episode recently about Caribbean identity and what that means in the context of West Indian cricket. I think, Mashel, you were joined by your dad, who's a doctor of philosophy, focusing on theology as well. And it was to analyse whether West Indies is a failed construct and whether there's any such thing as a true Caribbean identity. Did you guys manage to answer that question in a podcast?
I'm going to let Santoki come in on that topic because he's got a lot to say on it as well. But I will just say that I think we've done 2 kind of episodes on that particular topic now. And suffice to say, to properly answer that, we're going to need at least another 37 episodes to break that answer down. But I think in short, there is no such thing as the West Indies in the modern sense. For me, I think it's outdated terminology which we all hang on to pretend that there is some kind of element of unification around the Caribbean. But Santoki, I'll let you come in on that because I know you've got quite a lot to say on that as well.
Yeah, I think if you were to sum it up at the World Cup, we saw a lot of nations, Pakistan, Australia, England, sing their national anthems with pride, and the West Indies are sort of there mumbling along to rally around the West Indies, which doesn't really sort of have the same effect. And that sort of sums up in a microcosm the West Indies. They're sort of unified very, very loosely by cricket. But beyond that, politically and sort of, especially younger players, there's been a push from governments to try and educate younger people about the West Indies and the history, because they do feel that it is a dying concept and what unifies them. And as Mashal said, culturally, I know outside of the West Indies, we're presented as sort of one homogenous nation where we're all the same. Culturally, we're very, very different. A Guyanese person and a Jamaican person is very different. So in terms of cricket, linking the West Indies as a nation and as a unit, if the performances aren't up to scratch anymore, how are you going to sort of maintain that link? And with another big issue with the crop of franchise leagues popping up month by month on a month-by-month basis at the moment, this is just going to tempt players away from sort of committing to the West Indies if that identity is sort of weakening over time.
We've had so many conversations recently, guys, about T20 cricket, Test cricket, where it's going. Excuse me, and it's so hard to know, because when you actually are a fan of, like, everyone here in this show right now they love Test cricket, right? We all love Test cricket, and purists, so to speak, or people who really like the game, they love Test cricket. But there is no doubt that T20 cricket is the future, and in fact, it's the present as well. And we're trying to figure out where the Big Bash fits into our summer, right? Now, it started off as quite a successful tournament, and it's just sort of seems to have faded a little bit, and we're trying to spark it up again, I suppose. But the Caribbean Premier League has been hugely successful. It's got a great window in the time of year, and it seems to be well followed as well. Is that the case? Do you guys have a perception that more people watch the Caribbean Premier League than perhaps the national side in a Test match?
It's an interesting question. So I think by financial metrics, I think still the Caribbean Premier League is the number 2 T20 league. I'm sure the PSL would say that they possibly are number 2 instead of CPL. But last I checked, CPL is number 2. I think you're right to say that the window helps, the location helps, and that's nothing against Australia. I'm sure Australia is a good place to go, but come on, it's easy to sell the Caribbean. You can go on holiday to the Caribbean for a month, and that sells itself, right? I think in terms of the fan base and why it's easier in the Caribbean to get behind CPL teams is because you don't have to support the West Indies in CPL. You can support your own country and their franchise team and forget the woes of West Indies for a good month. So it's possible. So this year, the Jamaica Talawas won CPL, and I was able to feel good about myself for the first time in 2022. So there is that aspect. There is that aspect as well. But I think fundamentally, like you say, what helps and where the Big Bash may fall down is the window we've got. Yeah. And it's a fairly protected window at this moment in time. Whereas, unless I'm mistaken, the Big Bash weirdly almost seems to be competing with its own international side, which makes no sense whatsoever.
There's less than 37 episodes in that, but there's quite a few episodes. So with that in mind, I think it's so easy and you see this with Australian commentators or English commentators, when the West Indies visit, they always couch the question in terms of, what have we got to do to fix West Indian cricket, or to fix the West Indies national side, aka how do we get the golden generation back again? Because that was nice to watch. Yeah. But listening to you say that, Mash, and I'll call you Mash if that's okay. But
yes, all good.
There's actually quite a lot of upside to West Indian cricket if you think about it in terms of the Caribbean Premier League. Would that be fair to say? What are the prospects of West Indian cricket moving forward with the way the game is changing?
So, Santoki, you better answer that, because all I'm going to say is we're finished. So you better answer that.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about the positives, but realistically, as we said, West Indies is such a complicated region of the world. Every nation has their own sort of development system. There's not sort of a unified pathway for players to develop, and that's the main thing. At the moment, we're seeing a lot of investment in Guyanese cricket, but we're not necessarily seeing that in Trinidadian or Jamaican cricket. So if you're Guyanese, you're sort of benefiting almost unfairly compared to the other islands. So until you have a sort of structured pathway for players in the Caribbean to make it into the West Indies, we're always going to be at a disadvantage, because at the moment it's almost as if you happen to have a government who value cricket, prioritize cricket, they're going to invest more. And it's not necessarily streamlined across the region. So structurally, there are massive issues about how do you create a unified pathway to ensure players do get structured learning and sort of structured development going forward. And that's something we'll need to address within long term if West Indies still do exist as a cricket nation within the next 15 or 20 years.
Just one more question from me, guys. I know that, the results in Test cricket, as you said earlier, at home especially, have been fantastic. But what happened in the World Cup here must have been an absolute fucking kick in the dick, because you guys have got so many great players. And, Nicky P captaining, well, he was there. He's not anymore, obviously. But like that must have been absolutely dreadful.
Santoki and I predicted that we'd struggle to get out of the group. So I will publicly say that I expected it, but I didn't expect it to be as dreadful as it turned out to be. What I would say is that we are currently suffering a hangover from not doing any succession planning. So when you have a generation of players that win 2 World Cups in the space of 4 years, and then they all retire at the same time or all leave the scene at the same time, you're going to suffer. And in our case, they all left the scene at the same time. So just for clarity, we're talking about Chris Gale, Kyron Pollard, Sunil Narine, Andre Russell, DJ Bravo, just to name those 5, right? So they all leave the scene at the same time. And the simple reality is the players who are now coming up, they're not as good. And I'll put in brackets, yet. I don't think they'll ever be as good, but they're certainly not as good yet. And then what's then happens, and if I equate it back to some of the points you all raised earlier on, with the proliferation of T20 leagues, it's now possible for teams that are previously seen as quote unquote weaker, well, everyone's playing T20 cricket. So all you need is a cohesive system, a good coach and a good set of players, and you would easily bypass the West Indies. I think we still got some players, but we certainly aren't heading in an upward tick. We're not heading in an upward trajectory at this moment in time.
Boys, Mash, Santoki, thanks so much for joining us. I guess the summary is that West Indian cricket is finished. And if you want to understand some of those processes.
They all play basketball.
Yeah, everyone play basketball and soccer. That's what I took from that.
Yeah.
No, one thing I like about you boys is that, like, when we get explanations about West Indian cricket in Australia delivered by the greats, it's usually to the backdrop of highlights of them bowling really fast, and your mind just drifts off just watching fucking wheels go past their head. So you're never actually listening.
And also they don't like cricket. They love it.
Yeah, that's right. Some steel drums and, Caribbean is just one area.
Yeah.
But you boys are actually covering it in a real way, and obviously with a good amount of self-deprecation as well, which is great. So I know you said to us off air, boys, that just to say to go to the website, but these boys, they have a podcast, they got YouTube, you can support them on Patreon. They're covering West Indies cricket in a real way. They got hoodies, they got merch. But if you want to go to the website, what is it, boys?
Go to www.CaribbeanCricketPodcast.com.
Nice one. We'll really appreciate it, boys. Catch you next time. And we'll get a bit of steel drums just to intro it.
Absolute pleasure, guys.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thank you very much to the boys from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Where's my agenda, Pez? All right, let's talk about what the fuck is going on there in Rawalpindi.
Yeah,
England hit 657 in the first innings, Pakistan 579, and then England. We're recording this on in between days 4 and 5. So England declared it 264 for 7. So that meant Pakistan were chasing 344 in 4 sessions to win, and at the moment Pakistan are currently 80 for 2. So that's 260 something to win, 8 wickets in hand. It's going to be a great finish. But the broader conversations about they're willing to lose a game to win a game.
Given this game had started when we last casted,
Yes.
I feel even that is this was the most fucked up scorecard I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. Weren't they at 170 at lunch on the first day? They scored 170 in the first session. And I can't even be sure that was the fastest scoring rate in the match.
This is per Ali Martin Guardian. In the 250-year history of first-class cricket, no side has ever lost after putting as many as 657 runs on the board in the first innings.
Interesting.
That
could be the first.
That's right. Sort of have a losing angle on this. But looking at that scorecard, pretty much every player was going better to run a ball, with their strike rate, even the guys down the bottom.
Yep.
Duckett 100, Crawley 100, Ollie Pope, Harry Brook.
Yep, so Crawley 122 off 111, Duckett a little slow, 107 off 110, Pope 108 off 104, and then Harry Brook 153 off 116.
Yeah. Now, what was then you go down, what did Stokes make? Oh, he missed out. And then I read the reports of no, he was going for the fastest 50 ever. In Test cricket.
And got 41 or something like that. Harry Brook hit 6 fours in an over. Can I read you his quote? He said, "They were all bad balls. I just try to put them away, really. I was probably happy with that over the 100.
I mean, what sorcery is Brendan McCullum casting over this side? Like, not just this side, like this is English cricket. Now, we know that the truth is English cricket has been quite innovative all the way back to starting the game, just about. But this is some fucking sorcery shit. I want to know what he's doing and saying to just win these guys over. Maybe it's just have a cap.
They dropping caps now before they go to bat. They're fucking seeing things.
I mean, look, you have to say Stokes too. He's the captain.
Right.
But this matchmaking that Rob Key's done between Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum is fucking unbelievable. Now, Ramiz Raja at one point said this is an embarrassing pitch. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty fucking flat.
But is it any different to the series when Australia played there?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
I mean, I don't know either, but you took a look at those scores. They were really hard graft. And it seems to me the external factor is that England's just fucking teeing off and going at sevens.
Yeah. Well, look, Pakistan's made 500 on themselves. But
no, they have.
But to make that many runs, 657 at 7 and over.
Yeah.
And then they went out the second innings and made 264 for 7 in 35.5 overs. They scored 921 runs from 821 balls.
They were going at 7.36 in the third innings.
Root's batting left-handed at one point.
Yep.
Will Jack's taking a fifer.
Sorry, for those who haven't seen it, he's literally shaping up left-handed. He's not switch hitting. He's literally shaping up left-handed. And looks good, by the way.
Of course it looks, yeah. But look, we're going to where people are going to hear this after whatever happens in the game.
Hey, but
like I'm looking forward to, like they have done. This is literally the rubber hitting the road of trying to save Test cricket. Like this is actually what you do if you were trying to make the game appealing to people and trying to also synthesize the white ball and red ball cricket so that it's actually easier for your whole squad to play. Like this is how we play the game now. That wicket is so fucking dead. Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes' tactics have kept this game alive, which is such a service to the game and also making it hugely entertaining. But it's like if Pakistan managed to get these runs, very much looking forward to going look, it's just a bit of naivety on behalf, on the part of England and Brendan McCullum and the team here.
Of course,
they're sort of pursuing entertainment goals. They want to go around like rock stars. And I also it will also give rise to what do you want to do for the Ashes? You can't get this done against our boys, though you can and you will.
And it's just one of those things because Australia just won that 3-match series there in the final session on the last day of the third Test match, and that's how you sort of go about these things. You graft them out, and you end up winning the series. And what Brendan needs to understand is, unfortunately, I will be calling him Brendan by his first name. A little bit of condescension, actually, quite a lot of condescension there. Is that I think that most people actually observe cricket in full series senses. A full 15-day experience. They don't sort of drop in and out and just sort of tune in for some highlights here and there. They actually watch the full gambit of a series. They watch the whole thing. So winning your Test matches here and there, that's all well and good. But unless you get that series victory, then what's the point?
It's a lovely gesture from England.
It's a nice gesture
to give us a bit of an exhibition of how you might enjoy the game.
It's 5th, 1st, 7th in the World Test Championship.
Right, it's twos.
It's twos. It is World Test twos.
World Test twos. Come in. What they've done is fucking remarkable. It really is. Zach Crawley, again, Ali sent this through to me. Zach Crawley was asked to sign the Rawalpindi honour board for guys scoring hundreds. Big old board. And he turned to, they gave him a pen. He just wanted to sign it on there, and then they're going to obviously engrave it and stuff.
Got it.
And he turned to Rubes, Danny Rube, and then he goes, "What they make again, Rubes?" He wasn't kidding. What I make? It's like pretty, You would have thought, like, I mean, how many people have been calling for Zach Crawley's head, you know, and he's just made his hundreds like, well, I want that mark again. You know, like, that's the, I think the term in Ali's article is the evangelical zeal of England's commitment to just scoring at pace, winning, Harry Brook caring about, you know, boundaries rather than hundreds and milestones. You know, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
Is unbelievable.
But if Pakistan reel that total in, you know,
knock them three down, knock them off three down.
It's just it's a tactical game, and sometimes Test cricket requires some patience. I think it's amazing.
England might get relegated from the World Test Championship if they keep losing these games, these series.
I'll just quickly, mate. I know it's not in the agenda, but did we mention last week that the 100 had a £400 million bid from private equity?
No, we didn't mention it. I think we were supposed to, but we didn't mention it.
Oh, right. Yeah. Just reported to be about 75%. Richard Thompson, the chair, said no, it wasn't 75%. But Richard Thompson just said, LSG went for a bill. We're going to need a couple of bill to get out of bed for this.
Oh, really?
Just,
get out of bed for it.
Yeah. He didn't use those words, but essentially, you know,
sure, that was a reply email.
No, he didn't channel Brad Hodge again and go that a couple of bill to get out of bed for it. Oh wait, was that him? I don't think so.
I don't think that was quite him, but
no, something happened.
No, that was his cousin.
Anyway, so just interesting one to note. You know that private equity Bridgepoint Group, I think they're called. They came in with a bit of a bid there. For white ball cricket.
I also noticed that in this game, just saw a thing from I saw a thing from a tweet. It was a video of it was after a drinks break and Leach was bowling and Joe Root walked up to him and took his hat off and then literally put the ball on his head and then with the tips of his fingers rolled the ball around Leach's head to shine the ball and Leach was just stood there while he was doing it. It was like, what the fuck is this sport?
Yeah. I found that interesting. I'm going to have to look at that. Actually,
so it was Tail Enders, our friends over there in the UK. Tail Enders tweeted that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's how I saw it.
I'll have to have another look because it didn't appear to be sort of simultaneous laughter as that was happening. It was a thing that they had
trying
to get
about.
The sunscreen off his head basically and get it onto the pill.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get it to go reverse and stuff like that. But,
right.
The fact that they were doing it without laughing, you know, here's a bald man and here's a bit of good luck as we shine it on his bald head. It was just another piece of innovation from Baz's boys.
I wonder if that plays into the selection of Leach in the side.
Oh, I'm back.
Anyway, I don't know what the fuck is going on over there, but it is remarkable.
Wouldn't that be great, actually? Because they're a little bit off using sunscreen on balls and stuff, aren't they? But it's like, if you've got a sunscreen your lid, you know, then you could put all manner of stuff on there. All manner of stuff.
Reef oil.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Cool, interesting. Thicker oil.
Bit of sunscreen with some BB cream in there. Interesting. Something to think about.
Really interesting.
Bangladesh and India are entwined in a series at the moment. I think they've got two tests coming up as well. And they're playing some ODIs at the moment. India are full strength. Also, Kuldeep Sen played his first game for India in this first ODI. India made 186. Only KL Rahul stood up. He made 73 off 70. He was also keeping. Shakib Al Hassan took 5 for 36, and then Bangladesh won the game with 1 wicket remaining, about 4 overs left. But the most remarkable thing is that the 10th wicket partnership was 51, I think it was. It was a 51 run stand, and it got fucking wild at the end. So Bangladesh were chasing 186, and they were cruising. It was like 130 for 4 or something like that. Then they lost about 5 for none. And then I think that was like 5 for 2 or 5 for 4 or something like that. And then they needed 52 off a bunch of overs with 1 wicket in the hand. They did it, but it was getting wild at the end where there was a Chahar was bowling. I think it was like a shoulder high no ball, miscued, and then the batters ran, and that was when they needed 3 to win. And then they ran. There was a direct hit run out chance. Went upstairs and he was safe. But then that meant that. So then they ran an overthrow as well. They needed 1 run off several balls, but it was a free hit and they got the job done. So there was a bit of catastrophizing about this. KL Rahul dropped a catch as well.
Yeah.
Now people online obviously blowing up about the era of Dravid and Rohit Sharma, their leadership post Kohli and Shastri, how successful that was and hasn't been as good. And you look at India's year that they've had, they've lost. It's actually been a really bad year for India in terms of the games that they've lost. They lost the South Africa series. They lost the 5th test, didn't they? That was replayed in England. They lost that series. They didn't make the final of the Asia Cup. They got knocked out of the World Cup in the semi-finals.
Yeah, good point.
They're losing games against Bangladesh. Now, that's the thing about Bangladesh. I feel like anytime Bangladesh win against anyone, it's completely unacceptable. Yeah, Bangladesh, I think ODI is actually their preferred format. They've actually a pretty decent record. But still, the story here is though largely, though it's a remarkable 10th wicket stand win. The story does feel to me a bit more like India. Like they've just lost fucking heaps and heaps of games, but I had a great time covering the IPL, so got to factor that in.
Or maybe they've actually been going at the average rate for Indian cricket.
That they always have, yeah.
Maybe they've just always been like this, and it was just the win against Australia at the Gabba that honestly, really shows how fucked the Australian men's side was at that time.
Yeah. I forget who was coaching, but bring him back.
Hey, just quickly, because we've just received a note from T20 Stars manager.
Oh, yeah.
You can use the promo Xmas25 for 25% off all fucking gear.
Oh, more value. Are you talking about more value there,
More value. Xmas25, Xmas25, 25% off all gear, pre-Christmas shopping, fill the stocking, 25% off all stock. Fuck, sorry about the value once again.
Sorry, I apologise in advance.
I apologise.
The Australian women are heading over to India as of this week. Their first game is on Saturday, obviously against India. It's a 5 T20I series. It's basically a warm-up before the World Cup, which starts in February, I think it is. That's in South Africa, though. Lisa Healy is captaining. I think it might be the first time she's ever captained the side because Meg Lanning has obviously had a break since the Commonwealth Games. She is not playing the series, nor is she captaining, obviously. No, she's captaining, but she's not playing. And then Rachel Haynes obviously just retired, who was the vice captain. So that led the opportunity for Lisa Healy to captain, and Talia McGrath is vice captain.
Right.
And I heard Lisa Healy talking before, and she was wondering whether to take the role, not wondering if it was the right time for her to captain, or if it might be a chance to look to the future. And obviously, Talia McGrath in the last, how long's Talia McGrath been permanently in the side? A year?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe like that. So for her to be vice, she is the future. She's a fucking gun.
Yeah, weapon.
Anyway, so that is a series happening over there. So that would be interesting to say the least. Obviously, as well, the women's IPL starts it's straight after the World Cup. It must be end of March, I think it is, before the men's IPL. Anyway, so I guess what I'm saying is that series is just playing for contracts, just like Cam Green was in the white ball series, according to Josh Butler, playing for ink. Was he saying playing for ink?
Did he say
I like that. Yeah,
tattoos.
Maybe he's doing about tattoos. Yeah. All right, Peter. Should we get into some hashtag AskTGC?
Not before our sponsor commitments. So I'll give you a choice. There's some new copy for Manscaped. So
they throw out new copy every week.
I hope it's good. That would be good. But just giving you a choice here. So you can do. It's the theme is stocking stuffer, male, female, or female sexual.
Male, female, or female sexual. Let's go female sexual.
All right, good choice. Not that I've read it. All right, 2022 sexual female host stocking stuffer copy intro. Santa, baby. It must be a holiday miracle because the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped, are providing the tools your man needs to stuff all your stockings, if you know what I mean. Wink emoji.
Nice.
That's right. This holiday season, Manscaped has vowed to make sure your man's tree is standing tall with 2 presents underneath.
Well, I know what I'm getting. I know I'm getting my partner for Christmas.
Trust me, ladies, Santa's cookies aren't the only thing you're going to want to get your hands on. Nice. Have him join the 7 million other sexy lumberjacks.
Thank God.
7 million other sexy lumberjacks. That's so funny. They've got to retire 6 million.
Yeah.
Who use Manscaped TM and get 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com with code TGC. Oh, baby, is it cold outside?
You know, when you just say, when I read female sexual, I want I don't need to be violently sexual, but just
no,
if you want your man to
that.
but that's I guess it's just innuendo, and the innuendo wasn't strong enough. I think is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. Well, talking points. Ho, 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 ladies. Naughty or nice, 'tis the season for your man to perform. And I'm not talking about gift giving. Imagine that. Imagine your partner said that to you. 'Tis the season to perform. You're hearing it at training and you're hearing it at home.
Yeah, okay. That's a bit I think we need to talk. Oh, fuck.
How's your performance?
Run through your brain every single thing you've ever done.
Yeah. Just a little performance review. Oh. Yeah. It's a season to perform. That's why there's all those September birthdays. But,
I had goals before the start of the season.
Inside the lawnmower body trimmer, which is the best trimmer on the market for his balls, back, chest, the list goes on. Back trimming.
Back trimming, okay. That's interesting.
You ever got around that?
Nah, I don't need to though. I don't have that predicament.
Yeah, I've a little bit, but I've never thought to trim.
Yeah, okay,
because then you're just snowballing that bad boy, aren't you?
Yeah. That does feel like a gateway before you know it. Just the ankle taping, shaving just heads a little bit higher up into the inner thigh.
Yeah, that's right. You got your weed whacker, your ear and nose hair trimmer. Don't forget their famous liquid formations, the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver. Right, anyway, use the code TGC at manscaped.com. It will be good around Christmas, well presented, well packaged, etc. Tree standing tall, 2 gifts underneath. That's testicles. TGC, manscaped.com, 20% off.
Hashtag AskTGC is brought to you by Ponting Wines. I was floating around Ponting Wines' website before, Pez.
Yeah?
Because you know me, I do enjoy a Pinot.
We'll be drinking Ponting Wines on stage at Adelaide.
Yes, we will be. And we were indeed invited to the winery, weren't we, for Ponting Wines? But we have commitments outside that, so we can't head over. That would have been a nice thing to do. But I was just looking at the Ponting Milestone 257. That's a Tasmanian Pinot Noir, Pez.
Yeah.
Now, with TGC, with the code Get a Few.
Yep.
Now you're talking about value, right? So you head to pontingwines.com.au. Let's say you wanted a 6-pack of Ponting Milestone 257 Tasmania Pinot Noir 2021. And let me tell you, I've had it before. It is delicious.
Yep.
Now, let's say you wanted 6 of those bad boys. They cost $350. You chuck in the code, Get a Few. Comes down to $279. You're saving, what are you saving there? $70. You're saving $70 on a case of wine.
Back in your pocket.
Get out of here. It's delightful. I'm just on the website now, Matt, as well. Order today for Christmas delivery. Yeah, 'tis the season, mate. 'Tis the season. I just went straight to the Pinot because, Pinot is my tipple of preference.
Sydney boy, obviously lighter, bit of sun out.
Yeah, exactly. Though, I find that now, what do you have in if you just had one glass of wine with dinner? Because if I was doing I was doing a little bit
wine.
Yeah. So I think the best wines you can have is like a Shiraz or maybe even a Cab.
Yeah, rich.
Yeah, a more rich one. But I just for a longer experience of an afternoon, I'm going to go with the Pinot, just a little bit easier on my palate.
Yeah.
For longer term. That's what I'm looking at 6-packs.
Ponting Wines is offering. He's got you covered there across all.
Pontingwines.com.au.
It's a good drop.
Order today for Christmas delivery. It's free shipping on orders over $200 as well. It's just value nonstop. Use the code Get a Few. I've already told you discounts that you're going to get. It is absolute discounts deluxe. Pontingwines.com.au. All right, let's get into it. Hashtag AskTGC. Cooper wrote him. He said, boys, it's recently come to my attention about how ridiculous our game really is. Wow. Last week, I was sitting at home watching Scotland and Zimbabwe, much to my girlfriend's delight, when halfway through Zimbabwe's batting innings, a scorecard popped up on the screen. Knowing more about Taiwanese table tennis than she does cricket, and being the inquisitive little cherub she is, she asked me what LBW stands for. I frowned and looked at her with a sort of disgusted expression before conceding to actually having to explain what I then thought was common knowledge to all. Feels like your problem, Cooper. Not really knowing how simple...
calling your girlfriend an inquisitive little cherub.
Not really knowing how simple I had to make the explanation, I drew no line at dumbing it down for her. And then, as he says, so when the bowler bowls the ball, when the bowler bowls the ball at the batsman and the batsman misses the ball, but it hits them on their leg pads in line with those 3 little things sticking out of the ground, the 11 guys who aren't the batsman all scream at the umpire until he puts his finger in the air.
I have seen it work like that way. Great cricket.
Yeah. And if the appeal is good enough, they often get scared and they give them out.
That's right. And have an erection at the same time.
And then someone will say, one for us here, boys. Anyway, Cooper goes on. I think I got to the phrase leg pads before realising how much of a nonce I am for rather playing this game than why I get my dad doesn't watch me play and would rather have it taken up tennis. Not really a question, I suppose, just a comment.
Yeah, nonce game realises he's a nonce when he's explaining it. Thinks he's alphaing his girlfriend. He doesn't know the LBW rule. So there's nothing more beta than knowing that rule.
Yeah, exactly. And as you... sorry, I'll stop you there, mate. Law. Knowing that law.
That's right. And he said batsman as well. I mean, that is not woke.
I have had the issue before about having to explain what LBW means, and there is actually no way to phrase it in a way that's like, oh, okay, I completely understand that on the first go. Yeah. Even explaining the offside rule in football is difficult enough.
You can do the full Monty thing where you actually do it as a dance and you can explain the offside rule for your arm.
Now we're talking. If I was to give that version,
of
just okay, what's doing here?
Yeah.
What's that about?
Fullmouth is a good film.
Really good. Really good.
Yeah, well, where do you start with LBW? Like, it has to. The ultimate principle is the umpire, like, you haven't used your bat, and the umpire thinks the ball's going to hit the stumps. There's obviously a couple
you've done it.
No, well, there's drop downs there, you know.
Well, no, the caveats, yeah.
Yeah, like you know, the person hearing the information is like, yeah, but what if the ball hits them outside the line of a line drawn between the umpire, between both sets of stumps?
Okay, what about if he was playing a shot? Well, no, hang on, I've just seen him skip down the wicket here. Was he past the 3 metre mark? Now, is that umpire's call?
Exactly.
Now, if 50% of the ball is hitting...
Yeah, only of the offside. On the offside it works. The leg side, no good.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
What's a leg stump?
Yeah, that's right, leg stump.
Jesus
off stump.
Christ. Where does the offside come from? I understand leg side, but someone's going to write in about that. Can I read one more to you, Pez? It's about cheating.
Light switch issues on and off.
Do you want to read the next one?
Oh, yeah, go on. Okay, I'll go. A non. Hashtag AskTGC. It's a non again. Have I got the right one? Yeah. It's a non again from Wine Barrel Country, SA again, lads. Only this time we are dealing with some cheating in the lower grades of the Barossa wheelie bin stuff camp that is believed to be on par with Sandpaper Gate. Okay. To set the scene for you lads, it was a rainy morning in Lyndoch and the team in question won the toss and wanted to have a stick, ? Have a stick.
It's raining.
Said team then got absolutely bundled out for fuck all, 117, but it should have been less if the captain didn't give the young kid a bowl, 1 for 29 off 3. Then the fun got started with our opening bat going to town and making about 50, brackets of the team eventual 95, mind you. But then the classic collapse occurred to a point where the skipper found it fishy that a 14-year-old could swing the ball after 20 overs? ? Again. At drinks, Skip went over to investigate the ball and found that there were only 2 pieces to this ball.
Oh, yes.
Skip then informed the other Skip that they are using the incorrect ball, brackets 2-piece instead of 4-piece. Imagine explaining this to your girlfriend as well, the little cherub. Where he was...
the inquisitive little cherub.
Where he was greeted with, "We are allowed to. It's in the rules, buddy." That was enough. Turns out after the game, the team only received a fine for this monstrosity. Do you think this is a slap on the wrist, lads? Should our club hold fundraisers to offset this amount so we can cheat and win as well? Is this just a case of the rich clubs get richer? Let us know, lads. Also, teas have been a lot better since Malala were held accountable, lads. Keep up the good work, lads. That was a previous question.
Okay. That one came in via Patreon, so some of that reference might be lost to people who aren't on patreon.com/GoCricketer. Okay. It's in the rules, buddy. It clearly isn't because they've been fined. And also, why would that be in the rules? It's just not. How can they...
So, and like, what would the delineation be then? You could use any ball?
Any ball.
Yeah.
Tennis
golf
ball if you want it.
Yeah.
Golf ball. I mean, Gilchrist used a squash ball in his hand at one time, didn't he? So...
A golf ball fly around.
If you... Yeah, it would. If you... have you ever hit a golf ball with a tennis racket?
Oh, no, but I fucking love immediately. I felt
later.
That's therapy.
Okay. If you use a 2-piece ball in a tournament, which in a competition that you must use a proper cricket ball, how can the other team not be awarded the points for that day? Or like you be deducted points in the competition?
It's wheelie bin stuff.
A fine is a severe punishment. That is a severe punishment. Like a fine for club cricketers, it's already fucking expensive enough. I want to know how much the club's been fined.
Yeah, I mean, taking money off a club, what does that do other than just like expedite their disintegration?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just stop playing. Like you're not allowed to play anymore.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, I'd like it if the fine was so much it bankrupted the club for using a 2-piecer. I mean, obviously wouldn't like that, but like in terms of cracking down on that monstrosity, I mean, it is like a 2-piece ball gets right into the psychological areas of cheating as well. Like, you know, there's nothing kind of more galling as a cricketer when you're in the nets and someone beats the bat and you pick up the ball and you inspect it fucking, you know, like you inspect it like looking down on it, spitting at it, you know, like at this absolute disgrace of morality. But this is just in a game scenario now, you know, like it's very underhanded using a 2-piecer.
And it's deliberate.
Yeah.
It's like because you can't accidentally acquire a 2-piece ball.
Everyone who lays their hands on it looks at it and goes, yeah, that's 2-piecer. But I mean, what?
And the fact that everyone in the field didn't mention that it was a 2-piecer, so they were all in on it. So it's deliberate act.
Yeah.
Let's just cross that bridge. It's a deliberate act. They're using a fucking 2-piecer. I mean, it's, you know, part of me is like, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, but not that you'd ever sort of relegate yourself to playing that stuff where they use literal auto bins as stumps.
Yes.
They draw the stumps on, or use sticky tape, and the umpire just decides to use the sticky tape.
They're spending so much money on electrical tape to put on the auto bin, they can't afford 4 pieces.
But like, if you were part of that, wouldn't you feel like a bit of a fucking cuck, like a bit of a beta going like,
see, that's the thing I don't
using
understand.
it 2 piece, so like a bowler comes in and just rips one part, probably not even ripping one past the bat.
It wouldn't count, doesn't count.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just like it's a 2 piece.
Because, obviously in grade/premier cricket, anything that isn't premier, anything that makes you feel like you're not playing in a test match should be given the widest berth possible. Now, like anytime,
it's an offence to your existence.
I don't see professional players having to move the sight screens.
Yeah.
I don't see the MCG guys, with their dog walking behind the bowler's arm. I see it a lot happen in the stands, but that gives rise to more professionalism. Like so many people come to watch me play because I'm so good that so I can cop that. But when a guy's just reading the paper with his dog walking on the field, that doesn't feel professional. So that should be given the widest berth possible.
Exactly.
Having to do drinks for yourself, having to do covers. These are all acts which aren't professional.
Yeah.
So the idea that people would be performing or playing the fucking thing with an illegal. Now, a bit of sandpaper, don't get me wrong, that's above board for me.
It's fine.
But
that's in the realm of skullduggery. That's skullduggery. But that's honour among thieves.
Yes.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe not that particular way.
Maybe not.
And maybe not for that amount of time.
Right, yeah, a couple of years, probably.
Maybe.
Those 3 guys held that secret for a long time. So the idea that you would be running into bowl with a 2-piecer, that is fucking yuck. But a fine for me is the fine for me is it seems too harsh. But losing points, deducting points,
Yeah,
I'm on board for it.
I just think.
What if this team makes the finals?
Lose the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, that has issues with Play HQ and stuff. There's issues in putting data with all that.
Of course. I would be more inclined if teams started getting awarded points or receiving fines for lack of quality tea.
Yeah.
The tea stuff has really affected me in the last few weeks.
Yeah, me too.
Really, really thought about it. Long
Hearing
enough.
about people using fucking 2 pieces and BYOT.
Yeah,
that's
doing?
like, perhaps we've got the conversation all wrong about the existence of cricket, like the existential issues facing cricket. Everyone's talking about, what are they going to do to the rights deal? How much content's out there? It's like, mate, let's get fucking tea back on board for starters.
And let's sort out the fucking Lamington situation
Let's get
first.
teams a fucking 4-piecer.
Yeah.
For God's sake, before we start
Jesus
talking about
Christ.
this bullshit.
You know who I blame? The players.
Knee.
I blame Pat Cummins' knee. See you guys on the internet.
No wonder
later.
he did a quad.